Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the PB Political Podcast. I'm Eshan Pokhrel.
I'm like,
And we've had a hell of a week, so we have a lot to cover over the last week. We're just going to do a quick rundown. First, obviously, as everyone knows, last Saturday, President Trump was the subject of an attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was nicked in the ear. Thankfully, instead of being shot through the head on live television. Then we're going to cover the Republican National Convention, the RNC, including the big news, J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio, being selected as President Trump's running mate after a big show, apprentice-style reveal. And we're also going to cover a little bit of Trump's speech last night, which I was a little bit disappointed by, admittedly. We were expecting something else, and we got something pretty similar to what we normally see from Trump. And finally, more news around President Biden. Reports that he will be stepping down in this weekend, or not stepping down, but not running for re-election this weekend. There's a lot of things going out, so no one really knows yet. But yeah, I mean, how was your week, Bodeker?
busy from a sense of trying to keep up with what was going on. I mean, start with, I guess, Saturday, right? And the shooting, and you go from there, which was a crazy day. Kind of one of those where were you moments. I think we'll talk about in a long time. Then you go and you get to the RNC starting, and that just kind of being... I actually think it was a lot, like, I heard a lot more about the RNC this year than I have in, I feel like, a long time. And then you get to all of the stuff with Biden and his, issues, and it looks like Democrats are starting to kind of panic a little bit. They should be. So it just kind of all of those things, and trying to take it all in as someone that I feel like I'm informed, but like after this week, I just feel like it's almost like a sensory overload of just so much stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're not going to get too much into the weeds of the assassination attempt because there's a lot of stuff coming out that does not look good for on the Secret Service. I'm not going to lie. They try to point the blame a lot to local police, who in turn have fought back and said that they actually... Oh man, let me turn that off. 1 second, guys, and we'll be right back. And we're back, sorry about that. But yeah, the Secret Service has been in a lot of hot water. I think both houses of Congress have called on the director to testify. Basically, the rundown is there was essentially one roof they had to secure in this whole area. They failed to secure it after police said that they didn't have the manpower to, way before the actual attempt happened. So the Secret Service is not in a good light right now. How this has happened, frankly, it's just luck that President Trump wasn't killed on stage. You can see like the way he turned his head right before or after the first bullet whizzed past his head. You can see the second, where the first one you can see him kind of move his head. Second one, he gets hit in the ear, and then he drops to the floor. A lot of failures that will probably be more clear as the hearings start going through next week and beyond. So we'll cover that again when it gets bigger. Do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, it was just a crazy moment. The Secret Service kind of dropped the ball. I mean, how are we not securing that? I feel like that's a pretty important vantage point. What I would be really interested actually to see is like how many people they stop or arrest at Trump's rallies. Like, is this the first time that how many times have we had people arrested or kind of seen or uncovered that? Because I assume that probably this is the first time that someone's tried to take his life. But I feel like I don't hear too much about stuff like that. Probably for good reason. I think it produced one of the most iconic maybe the most iconic picture in American political history. Whoever took that picture probably should get a Pulitzer Prize.
I think they already have one, actually. I think the photographer has one.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. So it might be.
Didn't
Yeah.
get another one. I mean,
Yeah, that photo is. Yeah, it'll be the head of this of the post as well, guys. You'll see the cover, the one with his fist up and the flag in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the if there's a boost in polling from this for Trump. Maybe even, and we'll get into the RNC speech, but usually, like, I think Reagan had a 23-point popularity boost after getting shot. Now, Trump and Reagan are very different people, personality-wise, so I don't think we'll see Trump get a 23-point polling boost, but I could definitely see him, maybe getting a couple of points here or there, especially among like independents who are kind of, like anti-political violence. They're very much lowering the temperature. I could see him getting a couple % of those votes.
Yeah, the biggest. There was a lot of consternation made around a new YouGov poll, where it's only a 2-person race, so take it with a lot of salt. But Trump and Biden, Trump leads 52-47. That's the biggest lead. I saw that one panicking a lot of people in the mainstream media. But I mean, there hasn't been too much of a boost, but he's gotten over 50. I guess that's a boost because the likelihood is whoever wins this election won't receive over 50% of the vote, with third-party candidates factored in. So the fact that Trump's kind of pushed his way into the 50s is a little, I guess, something that's, I guess you call it a bump, but it's not like a Reagan-esque 23 points. And yeah, they're very different. So yeah, I guess that's, we'll bring more about the assassination attempt when, let's see what the Secret Service director says. She is in very hot water right now. Let's move on to the RNC, which I think was actually a lot of fun. Like, the convention was really well done. There was a lot of... It was fascinating because I think a lot of people across the aisle have kind of agreed that this was a very, very, very well put together convention. Not in like the old Republican way, but it definitely reached an arm out to a lot of voter blocks that Republicans traditionally have not been competitive for. And you can see like the Teamsters president speaking for the first time ever. It's one of the biggest unions in the country. You had a lot more pushes towards like voters on like different races, different backgrounds, ethnic lines, whatever, which is something you don't really see from the Republican Party. And that was the theme of basically everyone's speech. I would say until Trump's. I think his written remarks definitely were that way, but he kind of went off the rails. But yeah, I mean, what did you think about the RNC?
I think it was like I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, like I think this was probably the best done RNC in terms of just, I think that the main theme that I gathered from the RNC was broadening the tent of, I think J.D. Vance said it in his speech of, even within the party, there are going to be ideological disagreements, but I think what I see the Republicans moving to is sort of this broader anti-left coalition of just, we may not all agree on our types of conservative policy, but we're going to kind of be the anti-left. Because there's, and J.D. Vance talked about, union and non-union. That's typically a pretty divisive issue economically, especially among Republicans. Just saying, hey, scrap that. We've got bigger, fish to fry. I think is a pretty interesting statement. Trying to broaden, the base, Republicans doing among minorities. That's typically a sector of the electorate that Republicans haven't done particularly well with. Now, they've improved by leaps and bounds with Hispanic voters. I would expect that to continue. Trump has done pretty good numbers for Republican in terms of the African-American vote. I would expect that to probably continue. And just trying to make inroads with voter groups that haven't traditionally voted Republican, or at least haven't in a long time. So I think it was a great convention from the point of view of trying to broaden the base and trying to. There's a lot of unity and kind of, saying we're going to welcome as many people into this movement as possible because everyone is kind of on the same page about one thing, I feel like, and that's kind of the defeating the left.
Yeah, I think that this convention really showcased a shift in like the future of the GOP, especially on their economic message. Like, I don't think I heard tax cuts come out of anybody's mouths except Trump's at the end during his speech. Like JD Vance, who I thought actually had one of the better speeches, just because of how like because no one knows who he is, but he's a really like a calm figure that I think that really played well. He again like the I think like I keep coming back to unions, but I think that's a huge voting block in his home state of Ohio, in the swing states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, that I think JD is going to have a very big role in helping swing for President Trump, because I think so a lot of union members have been starting like there's kind of a weird shift in their voting tendencies. You can see like obviously Democrats have been better on union politics recently. I think President Biden has been probably the best, definitely has been the best president for unions probably ever, but you can see the cultural like union voters tend to culturally align with Republicans, and if Republicans by like through JD Vance, even through Trump, like having the Teamsters president there, Trump actually went after the UAW's president, who is notably much more like left wing, I guess you could say. So maybe that's why, I don't know, they're not really friends. If you see Republicans start making actual progress towards like union voters, maybe like that would be keeping Biden's NLRB and FTC, and so which I personally would be a fan of both of those moves. I think that is something that would shift. I think that would benefit the Republican Party. That would grow their coalition in a massive way, because union voters vote, and union members are very powerful in their endorsements and stuff. Like you heard after the Teamsters president spoke on, I think it was Wednesday, maybe it was Tuesday. You heard that they said that they're considering not endorsing, and they endorsed Biden last time around, but I think Sean O'Brien, the president, said that he has a good relationship with JD Vance, and that's that could go a long way. So I mean, I think we're talking about Senator Vance here in a little bit, but I think that the economic shift in their policy just throughout the speaking was really interesting, and I think that's the best way to. I think that'll help with a lot of their unity message. Like that will, if they actually govern that way, the future of the GOP will be pretty secure, in my opinion.
Agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. Yeah. I think the messaging was. I feel like we've both been pretty critical of the Republicans in the last. At least, like, throughout the time we've both been politically active, I'd say probably the last 8 years, their messaging has been pretty inconsistent and kind of tough to follow. I think this is the first time where it seemed like the message was coherent and, hopeful. And I thought it was some of the best, most organized messaging that I've seen coming out of the RNC, personally.
I think so too. I mean, like you can see the absolute array of speakers they had. They had like newcomers. They had like Vivek Ramaswamy. They had Glenn Youngkin speak. They had what's his name, the guy from Nevada, Sam Brown speak. Like they had like a really interesting, diverse like range of ideological speakers that I think you don't. And like you also had Nikki Haley speak, and like Ron DeSantis, and like. There was a real unity. There's a unity inside the party that I've actually never seen from Republicans. I mean, I guess I haven't really ever seen it from Democrats I've never seen it from Democrats, because I mean the last 8 years you've had the Bernie wing at war with the more neoliberal wing. So I think this is definitely the most united Republican Party. I think everyone said that. Most united Republican Party since probably Reagan. I mean, it looks really interesting for them. I mean, like they've definitely earned their way to being the favorites for this election. And yeah, I guess we can get to that. And that's part of the reason I think that President Trump selected JD Vance as his running mate. So what are your thoughts on Senator Vance?
I feel like JD Vance is one of those people that, like, since he's been in the Senate and before he even ran, like, I knew a little bit about him, but I never truly, like, did a deep dive into him. So I think his speech was even great for me to grasp more of who he is. And I mean, I really have a lot of respect for him in terms of his story. Like he has an amazing story. I'm about to go buy a copy of Hillbilly Elegy because I want to just go read it and kind of get JD Vance's thoughts on like, especially as both of us are from Appalachia, like kind of getting his thoughts on, the cultural side of how he feels about our region of the country. So I think that would be kind of interesting to get a grip on. But he gave a good speech. It wasn't too long. I mean, it was half an hour, 40 minutes. His wife did a great job introducing him beforehand. Like you said, introducing a unified economic message of voting groups that typically don't vote with each other. Additionally, kind of in the same way socially. I'm kind of going to hammer on it again, but I really think Vance is kind of alluding to that, like, anti-left coalition. Like, if you kind of have this kind of vision for the country, and you feel about this way about America, vote for us. We'll figure our issues out later, but this is more important. And I think that's really interesting because I feel like that's been a huge Democratic strategy in the last probably decade, right? It's the anti-Trump, anti-right-wing coalition. Yeah. And you're kind of seeing the flip of our...
Sorry, we have some technical difficulties there. Bodeker, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So like I was talking about with the Democrats kind of being the trying to build their anti-right-wing coalition under, starting probably Obama's second term all the way through, at least 2020. And that was, I would say, a pretty reasonably successful block of voters, at least just given the context of the time and Trump and all of that different stuff. And now you're kind of seeing the flip of Trump actually kind of being the American political thought leader right now in terms of, you go online and Trump is probably going to beat Biden in popularity in just about any Instagram comment section you look in, and those are not reliable sources, but Trump is infinitely more popular than Biden there. And just trying to build this really wide coalition of the anti-left. And that was a big change for me, at least, to see out of the RNC this year.
Yeah, I think I the more I thought about at first, I was like, oh, J.D. Vance it's kind of who people were. J.D. Vance always seemed like if Trump thinks he's going to win in a blowout, he'll pick J.D. Vance. Actually, I think that it was a smarter pick than just that. I kind of like the pick more that I've thought about it now because he has a great personal story. I mean, he's really young, 39 years old. He's only served in the Senate for 2 years, but I think Trump probably sees that as a positive because he had never been in government or elected office until he was president. So I think there's a little bit of respect there. And then I think he'll be very helpful with his with the way he's used economic liberalism to be a new sort of Republican, I guess. Not really not a classic tax cuts for the rich. I guess it's like a corporate Republican. I think that's definitely a strength that he's gonna be able to draw on those swing states. Because again, if Trump wins any one of those swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, it's very, very hard for any Democrat to win, just because the likelihood that Georgia will not go blue, just with polling, but also there hasn't been a real. I guess Biden hasn't really given Georgians a reason to stay blue, and they had the historic double Senate seat and presidency go to Democrats, but I don't think that's going to happen again. And then Arizona too. You've seen the polling in Arizona. Biden is underwater. And maybe even Nevada. So I think those three states, obviously the blue wall, famously, they have to win those. But J.D. Vance being so close to even Michigan, Michigan will be huge. And if he can tip Michigan to Republicans, then that's going to become a great pick. So I think it's a smart pick. His speech was really good. I thought his speech was good. I wish they had though the criticism is they should have. I don't know who wrote his speech, but instead of introducing himself second, he kind of did his thanks to President Trump in the first part, which was kind of weird because you would think he would introduce himself first because that part of the speech was really good. But the problem is if you have that second, a lot of people are going to turn it off. So I feel like they should have let him introduce himself first, then go into then accept the nomination, then go into the whole Trump stuff. So that was a little weird, but I thought that part of the speech where he was talking about his upbringing was really good. And I'm excited to see how he campaigns. It's going to be kind of interesting. It's going to be different from Trump for sure.
Who do we have winning in a hypothetical vice presidential debate right now?
Right now, and that's right now is Friday at 9:55 a.m. guys, just to make sure, because there might be a lot of things changing. I would say I don't know honestly. Kamala Harris isn't a bad debater, as we saw in the 2020 debates. She's probably very rusty, to be fair, but I don't know. I'm not sure honestly. I think Vance just has a little bit more. I think Vance has done more in the last couple of years. I think he has much more of a recent record because I mean, when you're vice president, you're not really doing anything. I think he would have the edge. I think he'd be a different. I think he'd be a different style for Kamala Harris to have to beat. I think he's kind of like a. I think he's very slick in that way when he debates.
Yeah, I think that in a way, Mike Pence actually kind of played to Kamala Harris in terms of Pence just being an evangelical from Indiana. I feel like that's a little bit easier to attack maybe than Vance, right? Who is kind of just this success story of someone who's kind of came basically nothing, and he talked about his grandmother and defeating addiction, and that's something that resonates with a ton of American communities, both inside Appalachia where we're from, and also across the country. So because you talk about fentanyl, the opioid crisis. I mean, they're real issues that are affecting a lot of people. So I think him kind of talking about that, I think would give him an edge with a lot of those swing state voters. It may not help. He may not help much in California or New York or places where a lot, or even in Texas, maybe even Florida. But in swing states where people are dealing with these kind of real world issues, I think that Vance is actually going to be a great person to talk about that and also debate that with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, if you win one of those swing states, then one of those northern swing states, you might just win the presidency, just the way everything else falls down. So who knows? I mean, that might be enough, honestly, for Republicans. Let's move on to the next. So we'll see. JD Vance is gonna be interesting to watch moving forward. I think that's for sure. Yeah, if the Democrats or if Republicans win, even if they just win Pennsylvania, if they win Pennsylvania and Georgia, then they win the presidency. So that gets them to 270. So it's a pretty favorable map right now for Republicans. But anyways, let's get to Trump's speech last night, which I was very excited for because the leaks everyone was kind of saying he's going to have like a really unifying speech and all that. So he closed the convention by accepting the nomination, and then they do the balloon drop and everything. So that's always fun. But yeah, so so it happens, and I was very it started very unifying. The first 10-15 minutes, he recounts the story of the shooting and all of that, and it was pretty good, and then it went fully off the rails. I don't know what happened. Like I don't know. It's very disappointing. It's actually funny because he said that everyone's done a great job at this convention. I don't want to be the reason to mess it up. I think he kind of did mess it up because he went on for an hour and a half, longest speech in any electoral, any acceptance speech for the nomination in modern history. And I mean, I don't even know. He started rambling. It became a fairly boilerplate, I guess you could say, Trump's campaign speech. But the first 20 minutes or so were probably the best part, and that's smart because the first 20 minutes are probably how much people are going to watch. So I don't know. I think he sort of did not rise to the occasion for the whole part just because he started rambling. But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I would kind of agree. I think, I texted you during it. At least that first 20 or 30 minutes, I was like, this might actually be his finest hour as a person in our political spotlight. I do think he kind of fell off a little bit towards the end. I applaud actually his stamina to go and kind of talk on for an hour and a half. That was unexpected, but at least the man is willing to speak. But yeah, I definitely rambled on a little bit. Got maybe a little bit too into the weeds on some stuff. And Trump's obviously, he's never been a policy genius, so he's never been one to talk about these broad really specific as well, like policy outlines for the country. That's just never been him. It's kind of like Trump is kind of that person who he's able to, just say Biden economy is bad, Trump economy is good, and that's kind of a lot of the way that he markets his own policies. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's simple. It resonates with people who don't always have time to intricately explore all of these different issues that we face. But yeah, you're right. He did kind of go off the rails, especially towards the end.
It got crazy.
You can tell he was kind of just, I think, a little bit fired up and just wanting to kind of seize the moment and especially in this time of people really having more respect for him, especially after almost dying. So I get that him wanting to kind of show his strength and show he's still all there. But yeah, he definitely drank.
That's probably what it is, but I think the issue really just that's absolutely what happened. He just kind of wanted to go further than he needed to, but the problem is, I guess, he didn't have to, and then I think you had a real chance to, if he had done the unity stuff, kind of, because you have to, one of the duties, I guess you could say, during a nomination speech is kind of to set out the priorities for the campaign, for the president, to kind of set down what we're going to try to focus on. He could have probably done that quicker. I mean, they released the prepared remarks, and I was watching the CNN coverage prior, and they were gassing it up. They were saying it was going to be good. The problem is that requires Trump to stay on script for the whole thing, which is probably never happened, honestly. Yesterday could have been the first time, but I think he had a real opportunity to just keep it together, basically, in a way that hasn't came before. And I think he failed at that, unfortunately for him. But I don't think it'll matter, because I think the Trump people were pretty happy. They were saying that after they got what they needed from the speech, which were the first 20 minutes. I mean, he did deliver those first 20 minutes pretty well, very powerfully. And I think that's the part that's going to be remembered. For the most part, mainly because that'll be what's blasted out, but also because everybody else fell asleep after the first 30 minutes because that speech took forever. So, yeah, but we'll see. I don't know if it'll change polling. Do you think it will? I don't know. It looks like there's going to be more news coming this weekend than just that, so we'll see if that...
Maybe, but I feel like this one's a TBD, especially considering, I guess, segueing into what will go on with President Biden. I think the last podcast we talked about whether we actually thought he would stay in the race, and I was definitely more on the yes team. I think I've kind of migrated to the maybe team now. We'll see. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have really been the main proponents in his family, telling him to, kind of keep pushing on. I think he's going to probably stay in until they kind of have doubt. Like we've seen, President Obama apparently has been casting doubt on Biden's candidacy. Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. That's leadership, at least congressionally. I think that we're almost up to 20 congressional Democrats now. It's definitely not the best waters, but I think as long as his family at least is still telling him to stay strong, I think he will. How long their resolve lasts for, who knows?
Yeah, I think it's over. I think it's over, but because I don't know how so Adam Schiff, who is likely to be the next senator from California, Nancy Pelosi, although she doesn't say anything publicly, which all these people not saying it publicly are cowards. Like, come on, this is not what anonymity is for. It's not to go around saying, "Oh, I think you should," just say it. Come on, who are you? Who are you? What are you gaining? Because if you think he's not going to win, then you're not really risking anything by saying he's not going to win.
Well, especially considering if quote unquote democracy is at stake, right?
Yeah,
you should be.
That's what I'm saying.
First on the list
to
make your name known.
Exactly.
You want to save democracy.
If any of you guys think that democracy is actually at risk, even listening, just know it's not true because they clearly don't believe it either. They being everyone that wants Biden to leave the race. Oh, as I'm saying that, four more Democratic representatives, Jared Huffman, Mark Vesey, Chuy Garcia, and Mark Pocan, from California, Texas, Illinois, and Wisconsin, respectively, have just announced that they want Biden out, which leads us to my next part of this. 27 members of Congress have now called for Biden to drop out. This includes two senators, Senator John Tester, who's in a very, very tight re-election battle in Montana, and Senator Peter Welch of Vermont. Both have called for Biden to step down. I think you can kind of put Michael Bennet in that category, too, senator from Colorado, who basically said that they will be fully losing if Biden stays on the ticket, but he didn't call for the actual removal. I don't see how he can withstand this, because not just Schiff, Pelosi, Jeffries, Schumer, all of these, the biggest power brokers in the Congress. You also have President Obama now, who, I mean, you can say Biden's the president and stuff, but Obama still runs the, I think everybody kind of agrees Obama's still kind of the party leader. Like, he's still like the head of the Democratic Party, kind of. And I think that's probably the final straw. I think it's just been the family. I don't know what the motivations are, frankly, for his family at this point, trying to keep him in this race. He clearly is not up to the job. I believe that he should resign as well as step down, because I don't think he can be president right now. I mean, like, it's if your working hours are 6 hours a day, how are you gonna be president? How does that work? That doesn't work. And I think I said last week too. I think Kamala Harris should also be stepping down with him, because she's complicit to this, but through the 25th Amendment. But then that leaves Mike Johnson as president, which is just kind of funny. But and who wants that? So I don't know. I don't think that he's gonna stay in. They've said that there've been rumors that Sunday is when he's gonna announce he's dropping out. I don't know if that's true. No one knows if that's true, but I assume that we're gonna have more Democrats come out tonight, Saturday, and call for this. And Mark Vesey is actually, I didn't mention this, the first member of the Congressional Black Caucus that has called on Biden to step down. And Chuy Garcia is a Hispanic caucus member, and Huffman and Pocan are both progressive caucuses, like leaders, I guess you can say leaders. So yeah, the knives are out. I wonder who's next. Last week I said that the first time after the debate or whatever, I said he's gonna stay in. Last week I said he's gonna get out. I'm gonna stick with that. He's gonna get out, because I don't think this pressure is I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna make him like give up, basically. But I will say, and I'll stop talking and let you speak a little bit. I will say, I think that any other Democrat has a chance of beating Joe Biden. And actually, I think that they should go for either Josh Shapiro or they should go for Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips is right about this all along. He ran for president saying Biden was too old last year, and he got 4 delegates. So he has delegates to the convention. So I mean that could be a compelling case. I don't know if he wants to do it, but if you're gonna pick someone, Democrats, go with Dean Phillips, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think I lean more towards, he's probably done now. It's something we've all been talking about at this point for more than half of his presidency. It's not like this is a new phenomenon. It's just really gaining steam now because, well, aging isn't linear. It's exponential, and we've seen exponential decline even from, the concerns we had in 2020. So, you're right. I do think there are some Democrats that would give Trump a really tough time. Biden is one of them at this point. I don't think Kamala Harris is one of them. I do think Josh Shapiro probably could give Trump a tough time. But especially given how important name rec is in a race. Because if you're Democrats, right, it's mid-July. You basically have the rest of July, August, September, October. So you got 3.5 months if you replace Joe Biden to figure out what are you going to do. That's a tightrope that's a little bit too fine to walk, in my opinion. I would hate to be at the DNC and trying to figure out what are we going to do, because it's like I said, if democracy is at stake, you got to figure it out because you can't lose. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what the plan is.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a plan.
There definitely isn't a plan. They could also go with They could go with Kennedy. He said that he's open to taking the nomination if they have it, and I say that because Kennedy's he's like, his average is probably like 8%, but like recently 12, 14, 15. He probably will be on the debate stage. He has. I mean, if you add Biden's 40 to Kennedy's 11, that's 51%. That could work. Now, it would be kind of cool if that would kind of be like a good story too. A Kennedy returns to save the Democrats. Wouldn't that be good narrative wise? That'd be great. Now, will they do that? Probably not. It makes too much sense. So they probably won't do it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not looking good. Five-way national polls on Real Clear Politics have Trump up 3.7. Most recently up 6 in a new Emerson poll. Not great. 538. 538's kind of gone off the rails because they actually have Biden. They have this little predictive model. Nate Silver, who founded 538 and left, just came out criticizing it. Pretty in-depth piece. It's actually pretty good. They have Biden winning in like 55 out of 45 simulations or whatever, or out of 100 simulations. I don't know how they've gotten that. It makes no sense. Now, again, this election's still far. It's not like a wash. It's been a very good couple months for Trump. But I do think that if Biden doesn't run, any other Democrat has a good chance. So now, because I'm looking at it now, the presidential forecast is even now. Biden wins 50 times out of 100. Trump wins 49. So it's actually went up. There was 3 where there was no winner. 3 simulations with no winner. The far end of the Trump victory is 503 to 35 for Trump. A huge electoral college landslide. On Biden's side, it's 484 to 54, which is also huge. So I don't really know how they do this. Again, Nate Silver, good read on his piece of why he's criticized this particular model. It's very odd, but it's a very odd model. But yeah, I mean, it's still a close race. Let's not fool ourselves. I mean, regardless of who is, like, you're still gonna have like 40% of the country, or I guess 70% of the country, vote for either Trump or Biden. So that 30% in the middle is really where it gets dicey, and I think that's where currently Biden's losing. Will it be Biden by the end of the weekend? We don't know. If they announce anything by the end of this weekend, we will probably get back on there and do something, or I'll get back on and do something, because not only would that be one of the biggest moments in modern political history, and it'd definitely be the biggest moment of the election cycle. It'd be the biggest moment, one of the biggest in American political history. I don't think we've ever had, other than LBJ, we never had this happen, probably. So, a lot of stuff.
I will say, if Joe Biden wins over 450 electoral votes, I will do an entire podcast decked out in Joe Biden merch.
I have a dark brand mug. My friend gave me one for my birthday. It's not like an official campaign thing.
I'll do the mug, a hat. I'll do a shirt.
Yeah, I'll do the mug.
Joe Biden wins over 450 electoral votes.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's yeah. No, yeah. I guess that is possible. Technically, well, no, it's not. It's not possible. Never mind. But yeah, okay. Well, yeah. That's the episode. Is there anything else we need to add? Did we forget anything? What a mess.
It was just a weird, crazy, unprecedented week. But I think we covered most of our bases in terms of wanting to look at Trump's assassination attempt, Biden's fitness or unfitness, J.D. Vance, his impact, the RNC, like we said, a different vibe this year. We'll see how long that continues, but overall the theme of expanding the tent, I thought that was smart. But overall, just a weird, crazy week that I feel like we're going to be seeing the effects from this for a while. I would say the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to be really interesting to examine.
And last question, I guess we've been doing this for the last couple of weeks. Will Biden be replaced, and who will be replacing him on the ticket?
All right, I'm going to go with I'm going to say yes, only for the sake of the video purposes for clickbait. I'm going to go yes. I'm going to go Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Not Gavin DeGraw. Gavin Newsom.
All right. Interesting. I think he's gonna be replaced. And yeah, I think it's just gonna be Kamala Harris. That being said, I think it should be Dean Phillips because he's been right about this all along. And then it takes a lot of courage to run against an incumbent president when everybody says that everyone's frankly lying about him being okay. Like the lie that they put on about President Biden being okay is one of the craziest and worst services to American history, in my opinion. So I think Dean Phillips should have a shot at it, honestly. Because he's 50 Minnesota. You need Minnesota. He's not incompetent, he's actually kind of like a normal person. I think he should get his shot. If he doesn't get his shot in 2024, I do think he'll have a shot in 2028. So that's my vote, Dean Phillips. In likelihood, I think it's going to be Kamala Harris. I think they just can't pass up for the optics, they can't pass up the first black woman vice president, even though they picked the worst possibly black woman to be vice president. I think Val Demings should have been vice president, the former congresswoman from Florida, but it doesn't even matter now, I guess. So yeah, that's my pick, and yeah, that's the episode. If we have any more news on the assassination attempt, more concrete evidence of anything, any familiar faces being involved, is all I'll say. We'll bring that to everybody. And yeah, thank y'all for listening. We'll be back possibly by earlier than next weekend, but maybe next probably just Friday. So yeah, thank y'all for listening. I'm Eshan Pokhrel.
I'm Michael Bodeker.
Y'all know where to find us, and goodbye.